Let's get the elephant out of the room first. Is Aoyama a traitor? Possibly. But personally, I don't think he is. I feel like it's a misdirection. And the reason for that is because of the things we know about Aoyama's character. Now, I want to talk about both sides here, okay? Even though I think it might be a misdirection, and he might not actually be the traitor, there is still a possibility he could be. There is a possibility. I'm not going to say it's not. But personally to me, looking at his character, looking at this chapter, and just remembering the things we know about him, I just cannot believe he would be that. He would be a traitor. So I just don't believe that. But let's talk about that, because that is the big discussion point of this chapter. Everybody is talking about it, and so let's get that out of the way first before I talk about all the other important details of this chapter. So, why is people calling Aoyama the traitor? Well, the chapter, the end of the chapter. The man is sitting there looking through Izuku's window while he is sleeping. And at the end, basically, the man finally makes his move. That's what is stated at the end. And so, many might interpret that as the traitor. You know, it is the traitor finally making his move. Because we do know that UA has a traitor. We know there is a traitor amongst the classmates. We know this. We just don't know who it is. There's been so many theories out there. Many have said it's, Kaminari. Many have said that it could possibly be Invisible Girl. But someone has always been in the shadows that many have not really talked about, which is Aoyama. And personally, I would say another character that could fit this would be Mineta as well, since he is a gag character, and many wouldn't expect a character that we have yet to see his room. Like, we have not seen this man's room. He always seems to be like a pervert, but there definitely could be possibility of him having a hidden side to him, and maybe that's just a disguise for him to be a traitor. We don't know, but I mean, there's a lot of theories, a lot of things you can throw out there who could possibly be the traitor of UA, and some of them do make a lot of sense. However, out of all of these, I just don't think it's Aoyama, just because of how his character has been displayed in the many arcs we have seen him. He doesn't have a whole lot of panel time and screen time in the series, but the screen time and panel time he has gotten has kind of given him enough characterization where we can understand what type of person he is, for the most part. And when you think about the very important things that's happened to him, like, let's go back to, like, earlier on, okay? In, like, Season 2 of the anime type stuff. Earlier on, he had to where Aoyama was talking to Ochako. It's like, you love Deku, don't you? Do you like him? Do you love Deku? And this is what he point-blank stated to Ochako. And it caused her to where she let go and all that. She freaked out, and then she went up against 13 and all that, and then managed to win. But the thing was, though, is that the way he asked that question, it was like he's very self-aware of others. And I can see why many might put that entire character trait as him possibly being a traitor, because he obviously observes people. He pays attention to them and all that to figure out kind of what they're thinking or what they're thinking. He seems to be able to get a good read on people. And when he said that, it's exactly what Ochako was unaware of. Like, she didn't understand or was unaware of it at the time, but at that moment she did realize she did have feelings for Izuku, and it's grown ever since then, just behind the scenes. And so Aoyama has always been this character that has shown that, and I can see why many might link that to the possibility of him being a traitor. But we also gotta look at the times of weakness he had. He was a coward in one moment when the League of Villains came in with, Shigaraki and all of them, and, Mr. Compress. When they all came in, and before we had that big fight with All Might and, All for One, we had him being a coward. He was a coward, he was scared, he was hiding from Dabi and all that. We saw this. And so he obviously has a side to where he's just scared. And even though he likes to act like he is a bright, shining light and all that, he is shining all the time, and, we know him as Naval Laser Boy, regardless of that, he does have a weak side to him. He is not strong-willed, obviously. Even though he likes to act like it, he puts on this persona that he's bright and shining, obviously, he doesn't really think about that, probably about himself deep within. He tried to man up in that arc, and he did man up. He did do some good stuff, but overall, though, he is somewhat of a coward. And most likely, when you look at this, this chapter, that's what you can apply here. You can apply that maybe the reason why he is stalking Izuku is because Izuku in recent arcs now, he has been shining quite brightly. I mean, he's been doing hero cases now. I mean, look at the entire thing of what happened with Night Eye and how he took down, Overhaul and all that. Maybe the reason why Aoyama is seeking to stalk Izuku is probably to learn from him. Maybe to figure out what makes Izuku tick, for he can probably shine a whole lot brighter. Or maybe in this case, maybe he's watching Izuku because he realizes something's going on within him. Because like I said earlier on already in this video, he knows how to observe people. He gets a good read on people. So maybe he knows that deep down, something's going on with Izuku. He's just not letting out those emotions right. And he realizes something is really bothering him, and he's not expressing it, because Izuku has showcased that he's fine. Like, he even said that to his classmates. He's like, I'm fine. He acted like everything was okay and all that. And maybe Aoyama, he's like, obviously he's holding stuff back. He's keeping his emotions bottled up with him. And so he realizes this, and maybe he's trying to figure out why Izuku is acting like that. That could be it. Maybe as a friend, he's being very considerate, and he wants to know why Izuku isn't seeming depressed, especially when there was like a funeral in this chapter. It really sets with that tone and goes along with that possible fury. However, let's also talk about another element as well, which I feel like many might want to brush to the side, not really think about, but look, it's 2018, okay? We're in the 21st century and all that. I mean, let's just be real here. There is a likely possibility that Aoyama is gay for Izuku. That is a possibility. I mean, let's not just get that off the table. Let's not. That is a possibility, because the first time we ever found him having, like, an ability to read people and figure out what they're kind of thinking before they even realize it is when he was talking to Ochiko. When he's like, you like Izuku, don't you? So there is a possibility in that moment, maybe he also has feelings for Izuku, and the reason why he's stalking him and even giving him food, and when he eats the food after that too, that he also gave Izuku, maybe he has feelings for him. Possibility. So when you think about it, it could be that he has love interest. He actually likes Izuku, and he wants to express his feelings, be open about it. Possibility. Now, besides that one as well, getting back into another example too, we also have the possibility that maybe he realizes that he kind of lacks the ability to communicate with his classmates, because when you think of everybody in his class, Aoyama's class and Izuku's class, all that, since they're together, Aoyama doesn't really have many interactions with people. He doesn't interact with a lot of people. And we even see in this chapter to where he sits down at the table and all that, and he eats alone. He doesn't go to the cafeteria, which could possibly explain that maybe he's a shy individual. Maybe he's very shy, but he has this persona he puts up, and he acts like he's all shiny and all this, but in reality, he's very depressed and lonely within himself. And maybe he just doesn't know how to interact with people. So maybe he wants to talk to Izuku to, figure out how he can interact with more people and socialize. That could be what's going on there as well. Maybe he wants to make friends and eventually be able to join Izuku's group and basically be able to, have more friends to talk with and not be so socially awkward. That is another thing we need to think about too. Now, going even further than that as well, there is another likely possibility, which I didn't come up with this one, but someone mentioned it to me on Twitter, and I'm just going to relay the message to all of you to kind of make sure you're all aware of it. There has been theories for a while now that Aoyama could possibly be quirkless. And I know many of you are going to be like, whoa, Chibi. He shoots lasers out of his navel. You're not going to tell me he's quirkless. Look, ever since we saw his ability really showcased, he's had a belt on. He's always had a belt on. So there's a likely possibility that maybe the belt, it has the ability to shoot lasers, but in reality, he can't. Now, I know many of you are going to be saying like, whoa, wait, Chibi. You know the man has a weakness with his quirk, right? The man gets stomach aches when he uses his quirk too much, his laser. Yes, I know about that. However, it is a possible theory that, could potentially mean he is actually quirkless. Maybe he is faking it. Have you ever thought that the man could be faking it the entire time? Maybe in reality he doesn't have a quirk and he's embarrassed about it? And so he has this belt on that looks like he's shooting lasers, and so he acts like he has a weakness because in reality he knows he's not that strong, but he likes to put on a persona. And so maybe he's not a traitor, but in reality he's lying to everyone. He just doesn't express himself, and he's quirkless. So, I mean, there's a lot of possible options. There is a lot of options for Aoyama's character right now. I mean, he could possibly be a traitor. He could possibly be Toga in disguise, for all we know. That's a likely possibility. He could be, you know, someone that's just shy and awkward and wants to figure out a way to communicate with his classmates. He could be seeking advice from Izuku to how to be a better hero and not be a coward. He could be checking up on Izuku to make sure he's not, you know, hiding something, or the man's, like, you know, not actually deeply suffering and maybe he is wanting to help him out. I mean, there's a lot of ways this could go, and so I don't think at this moment he's a traitor. I just don't. I feel like it's a misdirection. Maybe very soon we'll find out, but I just do not believe that he is. Now, if he is, though, he is. But I just don't think so, because all the evidence right now, it just doesn't look like it. So, I'm going to leave it at that for now. Let's talk about everything else in this chapter. So, let's get into Endeavor. Endeavor has been a very big point of discussion recently, thanks to the recent chapters of Boku no Hero Academia. He is going through his own little mini redemption arc, and it seems like Horikoshi is trying to somewhat redeem his character. And as I've already expressed many times on Twitter and on YouTube and all of that in my videos, I've said that even though he might become more likable, but a better hero, people might start liking him, at the end of the day, it doesn't redeem him for the scummy and slimy stuff he has done throughout the series, what he did to his family. It does not redeem him, and in no way is there even a possibility that he could probably be redeemed for what he has done. It just, stuff like that doesn't go away. No matter how good you are, stuff like that doesn't just go away. It doesn't. I'm sorry to say it, but it doesn't. And so, I do believe that what's going on here is Horikoshi realizes this, but he's trying to make him a little bit more of a likable character. And in this chapter, I couldn't help but get the feeling that there is some death flags building up for Endeavor's character. There is definitely some death flags there. And what I mean is that when he's like, I want to become a hero that you're proud of, Todoroki. And in that moment, it clicked in my head like, why does it seem like these are like the final words a father's going to say to his child? And he's going to become a hero that, you know, Todoroki is proud of, but in the end, he's probably going to die to become that. Something tells me something like that might happen. I don't know. I got that feeling. As soon as he said that, and you saw the eyes and all that from him, his eye change, I was like, it looks like Horikoshi is building up Endeavor to possibly lay down his life, and in that moment when he does lay down his life, maybe he'll be a good hero, but he's gonna die. And so we're gonna be like, wow, like, the only way we could actually respect him is for him to die, and something tells me something like that's probably gonna happen, judging by the way there was little hints in this chapter. But, let's talk about how he is changing. So, Inasa took notice of Endeavor's change. We had a quick little flashback panel that showed Endeavor's eye. And you look at his eye, it's looking up and has this very angry expression. Like this expression where he cares little for anyone underneath him. He's just looking straight up. And in a way, you can analyze this and assume that's like an eye of ambition. He is looking up at that goal line. He's looking up at All Might. He was looking up to be the #1 hero and surpass him. He wasn't looking at anybody below him. He wasn't looking at the public. He was just looking at his own desires. That's what you can view that panel as, when he was looking up with his eye of anger. And when you see Inasa view Endeavor now, and you see his eye of sadness or kindness, just calm eye, and he's looking down at Shoto, you know, Todoroki, it's a different eye expression. And the eye basically lets us know that he's no longer looking at his ambition. He's now being more of an actual good person. He realizes now what weight he carries, what, you know, the weight is now of being the #1 hero, and now he's trying to actually live up to those expectations. He realizes now that he has gotten the #1 hero spot, it's not as easy as he thought it was, and he's trying to be what everybody wants him to be. He's trying to be that #1 hero, and so when he looks at his son, it was an honest expression that showed that he was not lying, he had no ulterior motive, he was actually looking at his son like a son, and saying, I'm going to become someone you're proud of. And that is why Inasa punched himself, because he was looking at, you know, the past self of Endeavor, and when he punched himself, he's like, look, you know, don't be like you are now, don't hold these grudges, obviously this man is trying to change, and so in that moment when he punches himself, it's like he's saying, I'm going to change myself, and you see him take a step forward and say, I'll be cheering for you, Endeavor. That right there showcases that Endeavor he's changing, but also Inasa is changing. He's not holding grudges anymore, and he is trying to accept Endeavor for who he is, and trying to say, you know what, Endeavor, I see you're trying to make strides and changing yourself. I support you on that. So that's good. I like that. I'm glad Inasa didn't kick a dog while he was down. That's basically that expression. You know when someone is trying to make a change, but people continue to kick a man down while he's trying to change himself? He didn't want to be that man. He didn't want to kick a dog while they were down. So he was trying to lift him back up for he can try to be a good person. So, good stuff there. I like how Horikoshi handled that. So let's talk about the next point, which is the children and the educational system. So, this is a very interesting point of the chapter, and I feel like it's going to be a very crucial aspect of the future arcs of Boku no Hero Academia, especially after seeing what happened to Eri. You know, Eri as a character, she's still very relevant right now. She woke up in this chapter, which I'll talk about in a second, but she woke up in this chapter, and we now know that there is something definitely wrong with the educational system in this series, because even though the children were kind of misguided and they weren't viewing adults properly, they still, at the end of the day, attacked adults. They attacked people. They attack people with their quirks, which, in reality, that shouldn't happen. Children shouldn't do that. Regardless of them being children, regardless of them kind of, you know, seeing how their parents speak or talk, it also falls down upon the educational system as well, of not teaching them how dangerous it is for them wielding their quirks. We've already seen this firsthand, and even Shigaraki has told us that every day when people are walking side by side one another, do they not realize that everybody is holding a dangerous weapon? Everybody has a quirk that could just end everybody in a second. Some people do. Look at Shigaraki's quirk. He has the ability to disintegrate people. And then look at what All Might was capable of. Look what Endeavor's capable of. Look at what, you know, our characters, Todoroki. You know, when you look at all of our characters, they have some very deadly abilities. And if they were not controlled properly, well, you know what could possibly happen. And so the children going out of their way to strike at people like that, even heroes or anyone, that's not something that they should do. That shows a problem with the parents, but also the educational system. And that is definitely going to be a crucial point. I think that's going to be tapped into in future arcs, because most likely we're going to see an arc of Eri going into a school, trying to learn how to control her quirk and understanding how to use it. I could definitely see something like that happening, because, I mean, Eri, even though she's in, you know, not going to be probably relevant, she's probably going to have to go to school or something to learn how to control her quirk. Her quirk is very dangerous. It's a weapon. So, yeah. I feel like that's going to be something. That's going to be something very big for a future arc of Boku no Hero Academia, and that will be the educational system. Maybe getting redone, reworked, or something, or showing the flaws of it and trying to improve upon it. Something like that might happen. So, next thing to talk about, let's talk about little tidbits that don't really matter at the end of the day, but are pretty funny. We had a little scene to where Ectoplasm, he was teaching the class, and he was doing a very hard equation, and Izuku's like, oh, I got it, and he was wrong. Ectoplasm's like, wrong, Momo, and then Momo got it, you know, right. In that moment, if you look at the panels on the bottom left corner of those panels, you will see Bakugo at first, when Izuku's like, I got it, and all that, and he says the answer, you see Bakugo very upset, like he has an angry expression. But then when Ectoplasm says he's wrong, and you see Momo answer right, he's smiling, he smirks. So I'm like, I see you, Bakugo. I see you smirking there. I see you smirking, you know, laughing at Izuku because he was wrong. Most likely, if I had to take an educated guess, I would assume that Bakugo probably had the answer, because we do know that Bakugo is an intelligent individual. So there is a likely possibility he might have had the answer, and he was just angry because Izuku, you know, answered first. So I thought that was very funny when it came to that moment of the chapter. Then we had, you know, Tokoyami. Tokoyami's like, oh man, this must be a question of darkness if, you know, even Momo stumped. I'm like, yo! Like, my boy Tokoyami, like, I love this man, like, oh my god. Ever since we saw his room and all that, I haven't stopped laughing when I think about that, just how his room is, how he is as a character. I love it. I love him so much. And so that moment when he's thinking in his mind, he's like, this must be a question of darkness. I'm like, oh, I love this character. So, there's a lot of good stuff, I think, throughout this chapter. There is a lot of build-up, and the big question that everybody can pull from this chapter is Aoyama, is he a traitor, Or is it a misdirection / stalker or whatever? Or is he in love with Izuku? We'll find out. But let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I love you guys. And how do you feel about, you know, also the two schools working together too? Forgot to mention that. How do you feel about the two schools working together? That means we're going to be seeing a lot more Kami and Inasa. So I look forward to that. But let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I love you guys. You have a wonderful day or night wherever you live. If you enjoy my content, please subscribe. If you like this video, please leave a like. Please be safe. Chibi out.